All right. Well, welcome. You all have picked an excellent presentation to watch. This presentation will be all about the importance of imagery and marketing within FIRST Robotics and how it can help your team be successful on and off the field. All right. So about me, who am I? I am a former student of Team 1902 Exploding Bacon, who won 2 regional chairman's awards and a world championship imagery award while I was on the team and helping. And I was also a big Bacon theory of image and marketing presenter. In the East, Exploding Bacon is known to have a very, very good image, very strong image. That's kind of their thing. So I learned a lot from that team, and then I took that, and when I mentored Team 4118 Roaring Riptide, I took all of that experience and helped them transform their image, and they subsequently won multiple imagery awards as a result of that rebranding. I also was an advisor for Team 1902 Exploding Bacon and a Florida Gators alumna, which will become more apparent as to why I'm mentioning that in the next few slides. And also, there was a nice missing picture with me with 2 blue banners that I helped my team with. So, adds a little oomph to who I am and why I'm giving this talk. So, what is an image? It's not something that everyone thinks about when they think about a FIRST Robotics team. They don't think about what exactly is an image and why it's important. So I'm here to fix that for you today. So an image is the impression that you make upon people inside and outside your organization. It's a combination of colors, uniforms, cheers, logos, and general items that conform to a predetermined and standardized set of requirements that you have set. It's similar to a brand or a theme, such as the Florida Gators. You see they have a logo, they have a font, they have specific colors, they have catchphrases. It's very, very clear who you're looking at when you see these 3 pictures. That means that they have a strong image. Why is defining your image important? If you know who you are, others will know who you are. If you know that you're the Florida Gators and you know that you're orange and blue, then others will be able to tell who you are and differentiate you from teams that are different than you, such as LSU. You can clearly see which team these players belong to, and that is incredibly important in FIRST Robotics as well. So the benefits of having a good image as a FIRST Robotics team include being able to establish a presence in your community and to make an impact. If people remember who you are and what you look like, they're going to remember you the next time you come to an outreach event that they're at. They're going to remember you when they're thinking about who to donate to that year. Like I said before, it helps differentiate your team from others. It makes for a really exciting team experience. If you're on a team like Exploding Bacon and they fully embrace their image and the pigs and the bacon, that means that your students will have a really exciting time on the team as well as people remembering who your team is. You hear the words Exploding Bacon and know that it's an FRC team, and I don't know that you would ever forget that there is a team called Exploding Bacon, because they have a very strong image and they've embraced that image. It can also help you with sponsorships. Sponsors, of course, want to help support any and all FIRST teams they can, but they're going to really like when teams have a strong image and help make them look good at outreach events that they host. So it helps strengthen your sponsorships. And also, there are multiple awards that are hinging on a strong image. First and foremost, the Imagery Award. But there are other awards that are where it's incredibly important to have a strong image. Very few chairman's winning teams have a bad image because it's incredibly important to your success at FIRST. So image, marketing, where is that difference? Your image is what you are, all of the things that make you who you are, and then marketing is sharing your team with others and sharing your image with others. So you promote your team at competitions, in the community, to potential sponsors. It's taking this font and these colors and converting them into something that the public can use or remember. Like I said, So some components of your image include your name, your logo, your fonts, your colors, your pit as a FIRST Robotics team, even your robot, your uniform, your cheers, your mascot, and your stand presence. So we'll go through all of these in more detail, but this picture just is overflowing with image, and you can take those lessons and apply them to your FIRST Robotics team and see success. So what's in the name? Every FIRST Robotics team has a name that they get to choose, whether it's maybe influenced by their school that they're going to, or if they have full creative rights as to what they get to choose. They're choosing Exploding Bacon, Degrees of Freedom, Gravy Robotics, or Roaring Riptide Robotics. They don't necessarily have to be descriptive of a robotics team. If you heard Exploding Bacon, you would never initially assume that it's a robotics team. Your biggest thing here is you want to be as distinct as you can, if your school allows it, so that if people hear your name, they remember who you are. And the importance is highlighted here. This is Blue Alliance, taken a couple years ago, but if you type in the search box, Eagle Robotics, you come up with a lot of different teams. This is because there are a lot of school mascots that are eagles, and eagles are generally a cool mascot. However, it makes your team not as unique, which is okay. You don't have to have a unique name in order to have a unique image, but it helps. For example, if you type in Roaring Riptide, there is only one team in FIRST who has the name Roaring Riptide. So it makes for a really easy springboard for having a good image. But Roaring Riptide is a little bit of a case study in this presentation because they started out with a bad image. But they have a really good journey on their success of transforming their image. So if you start out with a unique name, that really helps. And you can pull your name from your school and be inspired, but not pull directly. For example, Roaring Riptide is a team based out of a school called PK Young, and their mascot was the Blue Wave. So they extrapolated a little bit, chose a unique mascot that still gave a nod to their school. So that's a cool idea. Another really, really important component of your image are your colors. You want to make sure that you very, very specifically select your colors. For example, Coke Red is different than Dr. Pepper Red, and yet they're always the same. You never look at a can of Dr. Pepper and see it the color of Coke. And that's where your colors are incredibly important. So you want to be able to select your hex codes, your Pantone colors, and things like that, and very specifically define your colors, because that's important when you're going to website design, when you're going to print shirts, when you're going to print papers. You want to make sure that your blue is always this blue. ASU and U of A both have red. They have very different types of red. You don't want to accidentally print a shirt with the ASU logo on it on a U of A red shirt. Back at these again, logos. Logos are where you can really, really have a unique image, because you have a name that's very regular and you can vibe it up with your logos. Exploding Bacon, for example, has a pig on a rocket. It's really good at displaying what the name of the team is, but also making it unique and having a good image. You can modify your logo each year to match the theme of the competition, so the theme of the game each year. However, you want to make sure you don't stray too far from your logo. So all of these, it's very, very clear what team you're looking at. But if you added too many components or got rid of the red circle, you would no longer really be able to tell what team you're looking at. So you want to make sure that you maintain your image even if you modify it. So when you're at competition, your uniform is one of the things that will be visually recognized. So you want it to be distinct, unique, and very clear as to what team you're looking at. So this is a bad example. Would you know that these two people are from the same team? Is there anything that matches? No. But they are. They're from the same team. And so if you were at competition and you saw these two people and you were looking for a Roaring Riptide member and you see a unicorn and someone in a bunch of inflatable tubes, you probably would walk past them and not know that those were the people that you were looking for and trying to ask the question. So if you're not recognizable, teams won't interact with you if they're looking for you and can't find you. And another thing on that same vein, I'm going to go on and on about uniforms because they're so important and there are so many lessons. Exploding Bacon learned this really early on. They had Thursday shirts. They had Friday shirts. There were different colors. And then they had everyday shirts. So, if you go to competition on Thursday and you see a team, you're like, cool, I want to talk to them tomorrow. And you're like, I know they're wearing a white shirt with a pig on it. So I'm going to go find them tomorrow. But then they're wearing different shirts that are black that may not even have a pig on it. You can't find that team that you were looking for. You could only identify with their shirt. But Exploding Bacon changed their tune and they picked shirts that were very, very clear as to who they are, and they maintained that shirt for all 3 days of competition. So that's incredibly important so that other teams can recognize who you are. So like I said before with the logos and changing the logos for different years, that is a totally fine idea. It's just something that you want to keep in mind is that then you are going to have a lot of different shirts, which could be cool. It shows a progression through the years, but then the shirts immediately become dated, and students who've been on the team for a long time may then have a lot of shirts and start getting rid of them, and it might just make more sense to stick with one logo so that you could be consistent. Like when you take pictures, you don't have to tell everyone, make sure you're wearing the shirt from this year. Something you can do to prevent that but still have that fun logo is to put it on the back somewhere, like adding some theming for the game on the back so that even if students are wearing a shirt from the past year, it's not clear in photographs that it's an old shirt. So your shirt is your most crucial component of your uniform, but it's not the only component of your uniform. There are pants too. I hope everyone's wearing pants. So these photos were taken from a couple years apart, where Exploding Bacon made one key change in their image and their uniform. They started all wearing the same color pants. So you see the picture on the right, everyone's wearing dark pants. They're black. They are uniform. Your eyes are not immediately drawn to any one person's legs because they should be drawn to the shirts and the awards and the banner. Whereas, I'm going to pick on myself here, these electric green pants are so fun. They're part of the image. Orange and green, they were the team colors, but your eyes immediately go to my pants. And you aren't looking at the chairman's award that we won, or the cool flag in the background if it was open properly, or all the cool pig ears. So if you have uniform pants, that can really help avoid the clutter that you can see in photographs when you are doing an awards picture or a team photo of any sorts. All right, a little case study here. This is an old Roaring Riptide picture. We're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to point out all the different things that they could improve upon, and then we'll see a recent picture. The same people. So, all right, we've got shorts, fine, but they're all different colors. We have two capes, one no cape. Both capes are different colors. Some pom-poms, a firefighter hat for some reason, an inner tube. They're all wearing the same shirt. That's good. Some of them have face paint, some of them don't. You see tall socks, not tall socks. A lot of chaotic going on here. It's okay. They have team shirts, they have an image, but it could be better. How could it be better? It could be so much better. All right, they've got uniform hats that say lifeguard. That's their mascot. They are Roaring Riptide, the lifeguards. They have uniform pants. They're all the same color. Their fun bags are lifeguard themed. They're all wearing the same shirts, and it's very clear who this team is, that they're all part of the same team, and there's not a lot distracting from the team's image and the awards that they're holding. So, that's the importance of a uniform. You want to have a really strong uniform. Another reason to potentially add specific pants into your uniform, they don't have to all be the same. So these are scrub pants. So we did buy specific pants. However, Exploding Bacon, they all just wear black pants. You pick your own. You bring them from home, you know. But the importance here is that there is a color combo of the red pants, the light blue top, which was incredibly important in this year of, I believe it was Power Up, because the volunteer shirts were a very, very similar color. Can anyone point out the volunteer in this photo? Yeah?
The guy in the very most back on that side, yeah, I see.
Yeah. This is not a Roaring Riptide shirt. It's a volunteer shirt. So at competition, there were a ton of people walking around in shirts that were almost the exact same color as Roaring Riptide. So if you're at competition and you're looking down at all the people and you want to know where Roaring Riptide is, if they didn't have these pants, you couldn't find them because there were just a sea of these light blue shirts. However, this was the year that Roaring Riptide started wearing their red pants. So you could look down, you see people, you see the light blue and red pants combo, and you know that's Roaring Riptide. So they change shirts of volunteers a lot. You don't want to end up in a situation where everyone has the same colored shirt as you. So that's where having special pants or shirts like Exploding Bacon, where it's a baseball tee and the sleeves are a different color and the middle part of it is white, that really distinguish you and help. Yes?
When you say volunteer, you mean that they're not part of the team?
They were a volunteer for the event. So they were given a specific event shirt, and that event shirt happened to be light blue. So all of the volunteers, all of the field resetters, not the judges and the referees, but all of the other volunteers at the event that were around the field and in the pits were wearing these light blue colored shirts. So you were at competition and you saw a lot of these shirts, and you wouldn't be able to differentiate the two shirts from one another from a distance. Having good shirts and a good image with your uniform helps in large team photos as well. You can clearly see where Roaring Riptide is, right here. And you can see the breaks between different teams. You've got Moose, you've got the Rams, Ramtech, Spam, Smash. You see different segments based on different colors and different shirts. You can see Exploding Bacon shirts, even though you can only see a couple of them, it's clear because their shirts are very unique. It's harder if you have teams next to each other that are wearing the same colored shirts. This is a black shirt, this is a black shirt, they're different teams. But you can't tell from a distance because their logos aren't super big and they're wearing the same colored shirts and they're right next to each other. So keep that in mind when you're picking shirt colors, is that sometimes it's helpful to go for a unique color. But you want to write that color down and remember exactly what that color is called so that you can have the exact same color shirts the next year. Some teams like to have drive team specific uniforms. That's okay, that's fine. However, you do run the risk of people seeing your drive team on the field. Maybe they're in flight suits, they're really psyched, they're excited, but they go to try to find those same people in the pits and they don't find them because they're looking for flight suits and not team shirts, or they're looking for capes and they go to a different team that has capes instead of Roaring Riptide. So you want to make sure that your image is clear on your drive team as well, because those are the people that all of the attendants that are watching the matches will see. Sometimes it gets cold, maybe not in Arizona very frequently, but inside with air conditioning you can get cold, and then you want to put on a jacket, and then you kind of cover up your beautiful shirts, your beautiful logos, your beautiful image. So I highly recommend considering getting specific or themed jackets that match your team's image, that either work with it or don't cover it up. You have the logo on both the sweatshirts and the shirts. You could even maybe do something where all of the students are wearing the same colored jacket, so that there's just some sort of uniformity, or maybe long sleeve shirts underneath the shirts. Something so that you don't have your image ruined just because your students are cold. So the other really cool thing about first robotics competitions is that your robot hangs out in the pit, and you can work on your robot in the pit, and other teams know where to find you because they know you have a pit. So if they're looking for throwing Riptide, they're going to go to the pits. They want to ask your drive team a question. They have questions about the robot. They want to scout. They might go to the pits. However, a pit like this, it's not super clear what team it belongs to. There's a little bit, everybody has a sign. Everybody's given a sign with their team number on it. I can tell you that the first year I went to competition, I did not know anyone's team numbers. I knew names, but I didn't know team numbers. So it's not incredibly helpful if you tell your students to go find Roaring Riptide and they don't know what they're looking for, they don't know where to find you because you don't have anything in your pit that has your name on it. This does have their logo, so that's a help, but it could be better. And I'm only pointing these things out because they did improve. I'm not trying to say that these are bad. It's just they're areas for improvement. Because this is what happened with their pit. They completely enhanced it. You would walk by this pit and know exactly who you were looking at. You have the logo everywhere. You have the team name in multiple places. You have the team number. You have theming. You have lifeguard chairs for the lifeguards. It's very clear. This pit is also very functional. Inside here, there are toolboxes, and everything is very organized in drawers and has a place. And that's incredibly important because you don't want your image to ever interrupt your safety or your success as a robotics team. It's designed to enhance your experience. This pit is also very recognizable in a very different way. You have lots and lots of the same color everywhere. You have little bits of pig items to go with the theme. You have a very, very clear logo. It's incredibly important that your pit is as themed as your team is, so that everyone who walks by it knows what team you are and where to find you. Because the pits are not arranged necessarily in any, I believe they are numerical, but there are a lot of teams. And sometimes teams don't show up, or it's just in a different order than you thought it would be in the venue. So you want to be very clear as to who you are, because if you walk into this room and you see these giant trellises and they're colored in orange and green, you'd be like, I know what team that is. That's the team I was looking for. I'm going to go over there. So it's very helpful because when other teams know where you are, they can ask you questions. They can scout your team. They can remember to pick you when it comes time for alliance selections. So one of your members of your team is your robot, and you can ensure that your robot is always displaying an excellent image of your team by branding your bot. So this was 2015. The triangle tall robots were a thing. Lots and lots of different teams had them. However, that made it that you saw a lot of the same robots, and you wanted to make sure that your robot stood out. So here you've got Walm Robotics with their very large logo cut into their metal. It's very clear what team this belongs to. So when you see it on the field, you know who you're looking at. Same with Roaring Riptide. They are unique and distinct. I think they went a little too far this year with their logo. It's not entirely clear what team this is. So keep that in mind when you are theming your logos. But this particular robot, in addition, did make it very clear as to where it was if you were looking for it in a sea of metal and people. The branding you can do on your robot can be little small things like hubcaps, the color of your tires. All the little details help add up to a really strong image. And if your robot looks nice and pretty, it's more likely that you'll have sponsors asking you to demo for events and do things like that would involve media, and you'll get more attention in the community if your robot looks good and your team looks good. It's also a really cool thing if your robot matches your students. So you've got a lot of orange. You've got a lot of orange on the robot, on the students, on the mascot. It's a very fun experience, and it also helps differentiate your robot from others and makes it a part of your team. Once again here, you have a robot that is matching the student. You obviously don't have to match exactly, but if your robot is clearly belonging to your team, that helps immensely. And once you have a good image with your robot, you want to keep it consistent because it's very clear when you look at any of these robots that these belong to Exploding Bacon. You go from year to year to year with an orange and green robot that's on the field. People see an orange and green robot on the field, they're going to immediately know that's Exploding Bacon. You see a pink robot on the field, you immediately know that's Team Pink. Obviously, there can be exceptions, but it's way more obvious than a robot that is not themed. You want to make sure that your theming of your robot doesn't counteract your image. So this was Team 4118, Roaring Riptide's robot. They were going with the Star Wars and the space, and they were really excited. And they put a BB-8 head on so that when the ball was in the robot, it looks like BB-8. Super cool. So their team is Roaring Riptide. And there was a team at competition that they went to whose name was the BB-8 Raiders. So if you go to competition and you see a robot with a BB-8 head, and there's a team called BB-8 Raiders, you're going to think it belongs to BB-8 Raiders. And so you're scouting, you're writing down things, and you're incorrectly attributing all of Roaring Riptide's achievements to the BB-8 Raiders. That's a problem if Roaring Riptide wants to succeed at competition. So you want to make sure that your robot doesn't portray a different image than your team. So it's not essential that every team has a cheer. However, it makes it way more exciting in the stands for the students and for other teams if you have a cheer. Because Exploding Bacon, their logo is a pig on a rocket, and their cheer is oink oink boom. So it's a call and response. It matches the logo, it matches the name, and because it's a call and response and they have a really strong image, other teams started learning their cheer, and you would just go to competition in an Exploding Bacon shirt. People would walk by you and go oink oink, and you were expected to say boom. People started knowing this. They would see you across the street at competition and they'd yell oink oink, and you'd go boom, and it was exciting for you. It's exciting for the other team. Then the other team knows who you are, they remember who you are. If you're having fun and they're having fun, that's way more positive of an experience, and they're going to want to team up with you at alliance selections or work with you in the future. In fact, in 2011, Exploding Bacon made friends with another team, and their image was very clear, and another team who was ranked very highly but didn't know any other teams, but had met Exploding Bacon at competition, they picked Exploding Bacon for alliance selections, despite maybe the robots not having been, Exploding Bacon wasn't ranked very highly. There wasn't a very clear reason to have picked Exploding Bacon, but they became friends. They bonded, it was a very clear image, and they picked Exploding Bacon. There's another time when some other team during alliance selections didn't know what the number of the team was, but they knew the name, they knew the logo. They were like, I don't know their number, I just want Exploding Bacon. And because they remembered the team name very specifically, they were able to then pick them in alliance selections. Because if you say, I don't know, I just want that tiger team, and there are 3 different tiger teams at your competition, it's not helpful. So you can get fun with your cheers. This was Roaring Riptides. They had lifeguards, on deck, dihydrogen, monoxide. I'm a fan of call and response. That's what I grew up on my robotics team. However, there are lots of different cheers you could do. But I think the more specific to your image, the better, because everybody's going to be cheering the same sort of thing. They're going to be cheering for the Red Alliance, the Blue Alliance. That is totally fine and acceptable, but your cheer is a great place to institute your image. Mascots are also your ambassadors of your team. So you want to make sure that they match your image. oftentimes you see the mascots without the rest of the team. So it may not be immediately clear who they belong to if their image isn't strong enough. So you have a moose, that belongs to Team Moose. You have a pig in an exploding bacon jersey. You know that that's exploding bacon. Then it gets a little harder. I don't know who the gorilla is. I don't know what team they are. I know what team this is, but you wouldn't. This is Team Smash. All of their shirts are orange. They're loosely based on Mash, but if you were walking around competition and you saw that mascot, you wouldn't know that that's the team that you were looking at. So it's very helpful to have an image that matches your mascot and vice versa. You don't have to have a mascot. You don't have to. Yeah, if that was your question, yeah, you don't have to have a mascot. It's just a way to then interact with other teams. At competition, there are a lot of times where there's a mascot parade or things like that. And also at community events. I know that Wilbur T. Pig was he was a hit with the small children who like to see a pig and get hugs from a pig. So it's just a way to spread your image that doesn't involve your robot specifically. It just adds to your experience at competition. This was Growing Riptide's mascot at the beginning, or one of them. It's okay. It's a shark. It doesn't go against the whole beach theme. However, there's a team in Florida whose name is Shark Attack, and their mascot is a shark. So you would go to competition, you would see a shark with blue on it and a 4, and think it's Team 744 Shark Attack. So you want to make sure that you're aware of the images of the other teams in your area that you're going to see at competition all the time, and make sure that your image is not confusing or conflicting with their image, just because you want to make sure that your team is unique and distinct. So that's why Roaring Riptide changed to lifeguards. So this here's a diagram that they were making as they were brainstorming different ideas for mascots. And they made a very detailed list of the components involved, of what their mascot would look like and how it would be different and unique from other teams. So this lifeguard mascot is way more distinct than a shark is in Florida. Giveaways are something that lots and lots and lots of teams do at competition. Most of them do buttons or pins. Some of them do blow up aliens or lanyards or pencils. The options are endless. The only limit is your imagination. But you want to make sure that these pins match your image and it's very clear what team you are, so that because these pins are something that everyone holds on to after competition has ended, or at the very least after they leave competition for the day before they go back. You know, they're gonna have this Roaring Riptide pin for a decent amount of time, and so if you're not visually in front of them, but they have your pin, they're gonna remember who you are. So as you can see, there are a lot of creative options you can do with your pin. A lot of logos. You've got a banana, Team Banana. That makes sense. You have an alligator. I don't know what team that was, but they have their number on there, and I hope their image involves an alligator. But it's a really cute pin. These pins are also really cute, but they don't match the team's image. This was Roaring Riptide. They don't necessarily contradict the image, but they have nothing to do with the logo or lifeguards or a wave. So if you got this pin, you'd be like, wow, this is a really cute pin. I don't know who I got it from. I don't remember what their team name is. I don't know what their shirts look like. So you want to keep that in mind when you're designing your giveaways. It's really fun to draw up these cute things that maybe match the game for the year. Or maybe they're a cool trend, but if they don't have your logo on it, or something that matches your image, it's way harder to associate that giveaway with your team. Obviously, there are the numbers, but it takes a while for students to really remember the numbers and the team name together. So these are examples of good giveaways. You have Rowing Riptide, it's very clear, it's their logo. It's also small, so it's gonna stand out in a sea of other buttons. Maybe it'll be more unique, maybe people will wanna go for it. This pin by Exploding Bacon, it matches their logo, which is a very distinct and unique logo. It's 13 colors, it's handmade, and it's like specific to the year itself. So this was 2016, I believe, with the steampunk and the ears, and like a hat to go with the steampunk theme. And so, because this team has such a great image, and these pins are so fun and unique, and they were handmade, so they were in short supply, they were a hot commodity. I'm talking people would come up to their pit all the time and just be like, do you have any pins? And we would run out of pins, and you were able to talk to other students because you had to have a conversation, because you were not just giving these pins out willy-nilly. You had to be like, okay, like, what do you want to do for this pin? So it added an element of socialization with other teams, and it made the students who may not have known a whole lot about Exploding Bacon, but were out there collecting pins, they knew that this pin existed, and they're like, I gotta go see Exploding Bacon. They have a really cool pin, a really cool giveaway. I wanna go talk to them. I wanna see their robot. I'll do anything for the pin. So it added an extra sense of fun, and it helped other teams, it helped invite them to your pit so that they would then remember who you are. They have a really cool item that reminds them of who you are, and that can be an incredibly important addition to your image. When you're not in the pits and you're not on the field, you're probably in the stands. So it's very helpful to have a stand presence, to have a strong stand presence. You look at this picture, you see very clearly all these people in blue shirts who are holding up their team name, Crunch, and their team number, 79. It's very clear who this team is. It's also exciting for them to be cheering their team. It's exciting for the team, like the drive team and the robot, to see their team yelling and cheering them on. It's also cool for other teams to see them cheering. And they could rearrange their numbers and their letters and cheer for other teams as well. So that added to the sense of cooperation that is present at First Robotics events and heightens the experience for everyone. This is where Rowing Riptide finally embraced their image and was using it in the stands. It's very clear what these numbers are. They are the correct colors. They have waves. Everyone's wearing the team shirt. It's very clear who this team is, and that they are very excited to be here, excited to be in the stands cheering their team on. You can even see them from a distance. This was taken from the field. Granted, it wasn't a super large venue, but that means the drive team could clearly see their team cheering for them. It gets them excited. People from across the venue can see this team in the stands. And if you're looking for someone to trade shirts with and no one on the drive team in the pit had a shirt your size, you would know exactly where to go to trade shirts with this team. You'd go to the stands. You'd go to their stands because you know where it is. So that adds to your presence at the event. And if you have a strong presence at the event, then other teams will know that that you are there. They will know who you are, and they'll remember you. You can use your image literally on any aspect of your team. You can use it on your robot, your uniform. You can use it on your outreach programs. So Rowing Riptide designed a program. Well, first the program came, and then they decided on a name. And so they're like, float is a really great idea. What can we use to make float work? What letters or what words could we use? They created a program that matched their image and went along with their image. So when Rowing Riptide is talking about, oh yeah, our float program, it just adds to the experience when a lifeguard is telling you about their float program. And it also makes it unique. Instead of just saying, oh yeah, our mentorship program, as you're talking to the judges, if you specifically say our float program, which is all about mentoring teams, the judges may be more likely to remember float. And you talking about float as a lifeguard with maybe a clipboard or whatever, and it'll be way more unique than just a mentorship program by that one Tiger team, who may have been awesome, but it's less recognizable. Same here with the Exploding Bacon, Big Bacon Theory of Image and Marketing workshop. They took, a whole Big Bang theory and added their image to it, so it's a Big Bacon theory of image and marketing, which matches their logo, and the logo for the event has their colors, it has their rocket. It's very clear what workshop this team, or what team is presenting this workshop. Not this workshop, but this workshop.
The teams have to present workshops.
They don't have to, but there are opportunities sometimes at events. So at Championship, there is a series of workshops that are presented by teams or by mentors, and the Big Bacon Theory of Image and Marketing is one that is presented at Championship by the team for a lot of years, like 10 years. So it's less that you have to have a workshop, but it's more that if you do have a workshop, if you do have a mentorship program, it's really fun if you theme it. It's way more exciting for the students, for the team itself, and for others to remember and know who they are, or what that workshop or program, who that belongs to. It's not a competition, but everybody has one, sort of. A build space. Everybody has somewhere that they build their robot, and it's way more positive of an experience if it's organized and themed. So this was Rhinemark build space before the rebranding. If you saw this, you wouldn't know what team it was. That's okay. However, sometimes you'll have over potential sponsors or potential members to your build space, and if it looks like this, you're way less likely to get members or sponsors than if it looks like this. So this was Growing Riptide's redone build space. It has a very clear separation between where the mechanical work is done and where the tables are. They have actually their whole competition pit set up so that they're able to practice in their competition pit as they work on their robot, so they know where everything is. And then when they go to competition, it's not confusing. They're not looking for a very specific tool and don't know where it is because they've been working with it all season like this. It also, if you're in a space that has your image all around you, you're going to know what your image is before you get to competition. So if Roaring Riptide didn't have any of this out before they got to competition, and then the students go to competition and all of a sudden it's like waves and lifeguards, they would be very confused if it was your first year. So you don't want that. You want your team to embrace your image all year round and really instill it in each of the students. Oh no, okay. So, ignore the bottom part, but rebrand or update. You don't always have to completely redo your image. For example, Roaring Riptide, they didn't have to completely redo their image. They just needed to update their team. They needed to rebrand a little bit, but not entirely. They had a good name, they had a unique idea, they just needed to make it more distinct and more unique. Down here were just different iterations of Exploding Bacon's logo. So like an old iteration and progressing, but they all had the team name, Exploding Bacon. They all had a pig on a rocket. So that was more of a slight update throughout the years to keep them modern than more of the rebrand that Roaring Riptide did. And I've been saying it, but I really, really, really recommend that you embrace your image. You have the opportunity to put this in every single aspect of your team, even your end of the year banquet desserts. These are Roaring Riptide's desserts, and they're little people on life preservers in a sea of icing. So, it's fun. First Robotics is fun, and it's more than just about the robot. It's also about your experience on the team and having a really fun time. So, highly recommend that you define your image and then wholeheartedly embrace it. So the big takeaways here, your image is what makes your team unique. A lot of little changes can make a big difference. You want to be consistent. Once you set up your image, you need to maintain it. And you need to have fun. That's a really big component here. There are some really, really good resources on Exploding Bacon's website that they have up their Big Bacon Theory of Image and Marketing workshop. They have Roaring Riptide's rebranding guide linked. They have Cheesy Poof's branding guidelines and the Space Cookies branding guidelines. So let me explain what those are. Even First has branding guidelines. These are documents of your team's image. So it's where you would write down exactly what font you're using, what size you use it at, what colors you're using very specifically, like your Pantone colors, your hex codes. It's where you would put the very specific way that you write your team name. You know, if you have a lot of weird capitalization involved, you'd want to make sure that that's recorded. First also has in their branding guide how to use their logo, what it looks like when it's black and white, how close it can be to other pictures. And it's just a general guideline for how to use your image. And it's incredibly important because as people leave the team and move on and you get new members, you want to make sure that your image is consistent. So if you have written down exactly what font you use and what colors you use, then you're going to be able to use those consistently over the course of many years and not constantly be searching for what was that one font that we used on all of our paper, all of our written items, because you'll know, it'll be in your branding guide. So Cheesy Poofs and Space Cookies have very good examples of branding guides for first teams. And Roaring Riptide's rebranding guide is all about the journey of how they started, how they worked on their image, and then how they rebranded. Do we have any questions before we get into like the interactive workshop portion?
I have 2 questions.
Go for it.
Did you have a technical role on your team, or did you focus just on image and marketing?
I could have had a technical role on the team. I focused on image and marketing and chairman's and outreach and a lot of the general written presentations going on, or written awards submissions as well as presentations. And then I've taken that and moved on with mentoring in those same fields.
And my second question is, how do you get started? So we're a rookie team, sort of loosely affiliated with a school. How do you get started with creating a team identity, which I'm assuming is sort of what leads you into the branding, but when you're starting from nothing, you know, you can't just, I mean, I suppose you could sort of make up a crazy name and go with it, but how would you recommend sort of starting that process more organically?
So, are you associated with a school?
Sort of.
Okay. Right, so you could take, you know, some image elements from that, from the school.
It's an eagle.
You can, you can have a unique team that involves eagles. It's possible. It's just not going to be based off your name specifically. You know, Exploding Bacon has a unique name, so then that makes the whole team unique. So, you know, maybe a unique interpretation of eagles or logo. Exploding Bacon used a random name generator to get their name, so that's always an option. Or kind of cool plays on words. If your team is really into something, then maybe well, if students are really into some theme or a show or something, you could take like a line from there. I would say that, yeah, finding a team name or logo or mascot is where, once you have one of those, you can springboard off of it into a lot of different options. Yes. That's probably not the answer you exactly wanted to hear.
No, it's just hard because we're loosely affiliated, so, but we definitely need, something, along the lines of the Roaring Riptides, but I'm not even sure we're comfortable going
Is
like,
there-
that far. Yeah.
Is there rules on, like, names and team members?
Team number are given, like is given to you, and then team name,
Could it change?
Not really.
from, like,
You
one
can-
competition to another?
not from one competition to another in the same year, but every year you have the opportunity, you could change your name.
You change your name all the way up to the first time?
Ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know when, I think it's when you register as a team that you have to submit some sort of team name.
But they track books for regional once before the regional. Like as soon as people register.
There we go. So you can change your name every year. I don't recommend it because then no one would know who you are. But yeah, if you went into your first season and had a name that you were not thrilled with, you
This
could
year
change
we are
it.
Ridgeline Robotics, and we
Okay.
love all of these ideas, but we're just not there yet. But
When I hear the word ridgeline, I'm thinking like mountains or ridgeback or stegosaurus or, you could get really creative based on a single word that doesn't necessarily match like an eagle.
Is there teams that have no match and they are? Without it? I mean, what
You
the
could.
team is versus what our marketing?
So
We don't match our mascot, we're, PD High School, Paris Valley High School. We don't match our mascot, which is a Trojan. We work off of Team Paradise. So we've got the Hawaiian shirts and the leis and all of that stuff at competition. So we matched off of Paradise a little bit.
And there are, I'm sure, many teams that have a very generic name as their school name, and that is part of their team name. But then their image is not necessarily affiliated with that.
Flagstaff has the coconuts. I have no idea what school it is, but they're the coconuts, and they're everywhere.
Coconino High
It was the
School.
coconuts, but they're everywhere. They're on everything.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say that as long as your image in like your logo matches your image, it doesn't necessarily have to match the words of your team name. If you had to use your school name, for example, because I believe there was one in Florida that was like a random school name, and they chose to be the Tigers, and like they had a whole like tiger cat kind of theme going on. So they're gonna say your team name a lot, so it does help if you're able to have a unique name. Because if you tell them, oh well, we go by the pink team, but our name is really like Rockledge Robotics, they're gonna be saying Rockledge Robotics all the time and not the pink team. So you have to keep that in mind when you're choosing your team name, is that they are going to say, the announcers are going to use whatever you submitted first. Yes.
I'm with the Team 996 Mechanized Castle High School. I'm a representative. I am not one of the mentors. What advice would you have for approaching a mentor with ideas for branding?
So I would definitely come with a lot of different examples, and maybe bring up the rebranding guide or the Big Bacon Theory guide and just different examples, and come up with your own ideas too of how, like, taking these lessons and extrapolating them onto your team and being like, okay, like we need to have a very specific color. I suggest like something like this.
We do have colors and a mascot of Mechanized, but from what I have seen, this is my first year on the team, we don't really have heavy branding.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be proposing like an entire update of everything, but like ideas for like stickers, pins, that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's hard to rebrand. It took Roaring Riptide a couple years to actually decide that they wanted to. So starting small, like pins that are very clearly part of your team, or updating your mascot, or starting small and having a list of very clear ideas can help when you talk to a mentor, and making sure that it's clear that these are very feasible changes, that small things can make a big difference.
And also too, if you sell them on the fact that they want to score. The reason you're interested in media is because so much judgment
It'll add to your success as a team. Yes. Yes.
So have you seen a team change the name, like, if you did it, or if you did have to, would you have a recommendation? Like, say this year, this team, but we want to change something next year? Oh, yeah, I do that,
Like, how would you totally rebrand?
yeah, no, like, knowing we want to do it next year, but we're already like, kind of doing one track.
Well, you're stuck with your name right now, but are you necessarily stuck with whatever you picked as your logo?
Yes.
Because when you get to competition is where they first see your logo. So if you can figure out before competition what you want that to look like,
Yeah.
that might lead, and then people are gonna follow the logo more than they're gonna follow the team name. Like, people know who we are, because my guys all show up in Hawaiian shirts. But 1 year Brophy showed up in Hawaiian shirts, and they called, and they were like, oh, you're in, they're like, no, those are Brophy, they're not ours.
Right.
Which is the problem, and figuring out how to fix it so our shirts are more unique to do that.
Yes.
But if you can just figure out what you guys want as your, like, basis point for that, then changing the name it won't really affect it. Like, we know the names, like the Firebirds and the different groups by their names. Team Crush, I don't know which high school it is, but I know who Team Crush is. So, but it's because they have little Crush old bottle cap things that they put on everything.
Right. So you can embrace an image that doesn't match your name that you plan on changing your name to match. So if you were the pink team, like if your team name was Rockledge Robotics and you wanted to be the pink team, you could, embrace pink entirely your first year as Rockledge Robotics, and then change your name the next year to match the image that you already presented. It's hard. Yes.
So is there any copyright issue that you've seen?
Like, I would say don't be an exact ripoff. Like, don't call yourself the Lion Kings. Probably, you don't want to infringe off of copyright. Definitely don't infringe off logos.
You haven't seen it happen?
I'm not gonna.
It's a huge sponsor, so there are events.
Yeah, they're at big events.
Yeah.
We got a cease and desist letter the year before I was there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
One of the kids had used an image of a palm tree that matched an image that was going into production for a show that ended up never happening.
Wow.
But because the palm tree image was almost exactly what they were using on their production, we got a cease and desist letter.
Wow. So,
It's
yep.
like, okay, can't use that anymore.
Definitely, if you're unique and you created a unique image that you've made up yourself, it's going to be better. Yes.
You wouldn't recommend just going off of Google or images or anything and taking something like that. That would,
No.
like she said, would that be
Yeah, you could
copyright?
totally could run into those issues.
Take ideas from what you see on that, and then have someone freehand it into their own image.
Yep.
So what would be a good place to
Although we need a food that's lost their
Yeah, you could be a Winnie the Pooh team.
That's true.
I mean, it's
We have some kids that aren't really good at the robot part, but they love to draw. So then for buttons each year, we said to those kids, okay, so we're gonna have a competition, figure out what buttons you like. So then they redo that every year of how they want the buttons to look and things like that. But you could do that with the same thing. This is what we're thinking about, and see who takes it further. And we always have a couple kids who are like, I helped design that. That's for sure.
always, the students have like an endless source of imagination that you can tap into. So, highly recommend doing that. I think we're like
Is there a list
ending
of
on time.
names for the state or all of FRC that we can like verify?
The Blue Alliance is a really good resource for that. It's like an unofficial guide to all of the different teams in first. However, I think on the first website there's a way to search as well.
Yeah, if you also look at the different regional competitions, like you can go, there's 2 competitions held in Arizona. If you look at those 2 competitions being held here, you'll see the name of almost every single team on it. So, and you may or may not be able to link to websites and stuff like that from that.
The First Alliance, or the Blue Alliance, does usually try to include the team website and sometimes logo as well.
It's not an easy exercise.
No. All right.
Thank you, this was great.
Thank you.
Things scare a lot of people.